So here's an act which I didn't know about, actually. It just must have skipped past me, but I found out about it just earlier because we're looking through legislation.gov. And to be honest, legislation.gov, I only thought you could search the titles of the act, but there is an advanced search on there, so you can search the contents of the acts. Maybe I did use it a long time ago, but I'd forgotten about it. And we were doing some data scraping from other archives, and it kept failing, and we didn't end up getting that many results from legislation.gov, which what I was searching for. We got the entire statutes collection there, but I ended up finding this act anyway. It's a 1641 act. And it's quite an important act, really, because it's like to have regular parliaments every 3 years. But it's also got a paragraph about parliamentary privilege in it. So it's like, it's also like the other Parliamentary Privileges Act. So there's another act with parliamentary privileging. So there must be about 7 of them now. There might be even more, but that's an important one. It's after Strode's Act, but before the Tumultuous Petitioning Act and before the other Parliamentary Privileges Acts. So, there's the 1603 one as well. So it was there's the 1603 Privilege of Parliament Act, and then there's this one, the Triennial one. So, but it's part of this wider act, and it gives MPs the privilege of Parliament. So that's probably the one after Strode's Act. Now, the thing with Strode's Act is that it says that any speaking about parliamentary matters is protected outside of Parliament, right? But usually you're talking to people in order to try and get the matter into Parliament or through it to get an action, right? So that's like doing campaigns and causes. We normally bring our campaigns and causes to our MPs, and then they get the voice in Parliament, and then it gets put down in the journals, reports, Hansard, right, as an official record and document in order to try and effect action, right? But this is the thing. In that act, it's got a really, really important clause in there because it explains that why are they going to Parliament? To have a voice in the House. So the whole point of them going to Parliament is to have a voice there in the Parliament, right? Because obviously if you don't get elected, you don't have a voice in the Parliament. So it's actually all about having the voice in the Parliament, and that's what's reflected sort of, in Article 9 in the Bill of Rights, freedom of speech in Parliament. But Strode's Act always said that you were privileged to talk about parliamentary matters out of Parliament, right? So that's like, now that's the same as, like the Noise Nuisance Act 1993. It says any political demonstration, right? Any political demonstration is exempt, but also the armed forces are exempt from noise nuisance as well, but vehicles are. But if it's not a political demonstration, if it's just a demonstration, not a political one, it's not exempt. So that, I think that Noise and Nuisance Act 1993 is a really, really good example compared to Strode's Act, speaking about political matters out of Parliament. But this is the thing. The whole point in anyone doing petitioning or soliciting signatures or even speaking about matters they want in Parliament is to get it in there, to get it voiced and get something done about it. They're not just talking around about it, for the sake of hearsay, right? Although you're supposed to get other people behind you, but you're only supposed to get people interested in to get something done about it. Now, this is where I think the modern lawyers and MPs have lost the thread and lost the plot, because you've got Ryan Bridge and Raise the Colours, right? Who have been shut down in Oxfordshire for putting the flags out. They didn't shut them down for speaking about it, did they? Right? They shut them for putting their signs and notices out. Yet you've got the control of advertisements exemption through using in the act, right? But they still shut them down. The council didn't. They had to go to the High Court, but they couldn't have done it in the normal court. If you can shut a political demonstration down through its noise, then surely what's the point in it being able to shut down through its signs, right? Why would you protect the sound that it makes and what people are saying If you could just shoot it down by signs and notices, it wouldn't make sense, would it? It would be completely illogical, right? And, if they want to choose to use the flag for their cause. So this is where I think Mr. Justice Diaz and, Robin Green KC and Tim Bearder have completely and totally lost the plot. And even Joy Lamorton, because he's going along with it all. He's going along with this pretend thing that, we'll sort it out in the courts, even though if it's in his favour. I mean, you shouldn't be going to get it resolved in the courts, even if you win, right? Even if it's like, there's no case to answer, right? Because the Supreme Court's not meant to judge on these things. Now, what I find with this Triennial Act is this. It's really interesting, following on from Strode's Act, that it's to have a voice in Parliament. Whereas in Strode's Act, it says that, any speaking about Parliament, anywhere, wherever you are, anything, if you're speaking about matters of Parliament, right, it's meant to be protected. Now, the MP, this is where, I know, Jeremy Corbyn, for example, means well, right? He's always going to these events all over the place, all over the country, right? Not just in his own constituency, but everywhere. He's popping up on TV everywhere, wanting people to listen to him everywhere, right? This is the thing. We've already got the fact that, MPs aren't even hardly using their proper privilege themselves, for travelling, to Parliament and during sessions. They've pretty much given away sort of like a lot of their own extent of their privileges. They've voluntarily relinquished a lot of it, right? And therefore, it's not being taken very seriously at all anymore. But they used to have it for their own private and personal life while they were elected as an MP and during session time, right? By those writs. Now, the thing with the Parliamentary Papers Act is that you can't use it like that. It's only for under the prerogative of Parliament for proceedings, right? So it's only for, like, when you're doing parliamentary business. But they don't even want to let you allow it for that. But it was a lot less than when they were doing the writs, because the writs protected MPs when they were going about their own business as well while they were elected, right? So it was a lot more extensive and in civil matters, which is where it was getting abused. But the thing is that our right to petition is meant to be under the prerogative and for proceedings when you're doing it, not when you're not doing it, right? But they don't even want to allow us to acknowledge that. And that's really what the Parliamentary Papers Act covers, the same, effectively really similar or the same as the right to petition. So I don't know what their problem is with it. They don't want us to have it, but they're not even giving their own. They're really very jealous about it existing. Now, but this is the catch, right? They're being very, very slack about what truly is covered by it and protected, yet there are all these clear, blatant laws, like, political demonstration, and then you got the 2007 Control of Advertisements using the Act and various other things. They exist in law, but they're ignoring that and they're letting it slip even more and slack even more, and they're just wanting to, in law, make out that everyone in law is just a crowd and is covered by EU law, right? The freedom of expression and freedom of speech as a crowd in EU law, not as a political demonstration, right? And then, ironically, none of these MPs are standing up for it and backing it, yet they're going to all these events, and, you got that Zara Sultana turning up at prisons, try to, do protests and stuff. Jeremy Corbyn won't do anything about it or say anything about it, right, officially, but yet he wants to be an active political agent with, political muscle, being a political broker, going out and about to all these events. So I'm Jeremy Corbyn, now I'll make a speech, now I'm going to speak to the nation about this or that, right? Now, this is the thing. When they had Strode's Act, and you said you were protected for speaking about Parliament, it wasn't for, someone in Cornwall or, Exeter or the Southwest, really to talk to other people about politics generally, because they weren't going to go into Parliament and get anything done about it, right? Kind of like just influencing people, in their voting or in a political party or campaign. It was going to be like, we're talking about Parliament, right? Because I'm in the Southwest, that's my constituency, because I'm going to go in there and do something for you, right? But not like, I'm not going to go into Parliament and do something for you, right? Because you're my constituent. I'm going to tell the country what it should be doing and what they should be telling their MPs and what they should be backing and doing to go into Parliament, right? Rather than serving your area and talking about your constituents and then with them and then going into Parliament to have the voice in there for them, right? It's not meant to be like... the whole idea of this is kind of definitely like a feedback loop on a guitar. The whole sort of like, you got electric guitar and you stand next to the speaker and it makes a horrible noise because like it's got a feedback loop, right? That's what MPs are actually doing now, because they're barely there for their own constituents. They're effectively just want to be celebrity political brokers, right? Telling the whole country what they should and shouldn't be doing, like Nigel Farage. And really, you don't even need to go into Parliament for that. Because you can just be like, oh, I'm Jeremy Corbyn, I'm going to turn up at every event and tell the whole country what it should be doing and what everyone should be telling their MP to do. That's actually when you get that. That should be ringing alarm bells, and that is when Jeremy Corbyn really, although no one knows it now because everyone just thinks that, it's perfectly normal and all right, but it's not. Because what he's actually doing is he's actually talking to the whole country. He wants them to listen to him, and then he wants them to then go tell their MPs what he said, right? And then so he's actually an influencer on other constituencies and persons on their MPs, right? And that is wrong. That is a big screeching chalk on a blackboard to me, because he's meant to be in the surgery, doing public speeches only in Islington, speaking to newspapers in Islington, maybe speaking to the news in Islington, and no one else in England hears a pipsqueak from him unless he has got a voice in Parliament, right? He's there to speak to Islington people, and he's there to represent them in Parliament, and he gets to have a voice there, and it gets enhanced, and it gets debated, and supposedly he has votes to affect the law. But that's actually not good enough now. The MPs aren't happy with that. They're not satisfied with it. It's not enough for them. They don't actually really want to be doing surgery work all the time and solving people's problems out at all, right? I mean, I was booked in to see Mark Eastwood, and we all got locked down in the pandemic. I didn't see him at all. And our new MP, he didn't seem to want to meet or see anyone, or definitely not me, right? I'm lucky when I get email reply, a month later or whatever, when someone gets around to look at it, right? Definitely different standard of engagement. Now, this whole Triennial Act, right, they get a voice in Parliament. Their privilege is to protect them when they travel from their home area, right, travel to Parliament while it's in session, protects them for the duration of it. They can't get arrested because then what's the point in sending them there? We don't have a voice in Parliament anymore, right? And that's what very important protection. And then anyone else who's collecting signatures or doing petitioning or canvassing and raise matters in the cause, they collecting the signatures. But I suppose the reach of national petitions now is spreading across boundaries and areas, but they're meant to be getting it down on paper so they can get their MPs and people to act. Now, you might say, well, if everyone can talk to other people in different areas and, put it all together, then why can't MPs? But the thing is that the MP is meant to be there as a receptacle for those petitions, to receive them when they're finished, and then go into Parliament and present it and debate it and argue and talk about it in Parliament, not debate and argue and talk about it outside Parliament to other parts of the country, because then that's our job. Our job is to get people behind it, raise the awareness, and then hand it in. Because if Jeremy Corbyn is just going to be the only one turning up at all these places and speaking on a microphone, why do you need other people to collect the signatures or have any causes? It's like, Corbyn shouldn't be coming up with the causes, although, he was Labour Party. Labour Party have already got the manifesto. Labour Party have already got the policies, right? These people who have got grievances and causes and matters, they've got to try and get something done about it, right? They're not Jeremy Corbyn's causes and matters, because if Jeremy Corbyn is just, him himself is a mobile broadcasting unit for causes and matters, why does anyone else need to speak about them, right? He's meant to actually be the receptacle, the receiver of causes and matters. Then he goes into Parliament, he gets the voice, he gets put down on the record, but to be honest, that's what the whole protection and privilege is meant to be about, and for us as well. But actually, the MPs don't respect their own, because they can get replaced now just with other MPs. So really, they don't even really value themselves. And then, but what's valuable now is them having social media, being a broadcaster. It doesn't even have to be voiced in the House, on the floor. It doesn't even have to be debated or going handsed. It's not our grievances that they're receiving to act on. It purely is, they get elected now, they represent their party or they're independent, and they're the ones going around telling everyone what they should be doing, telling everyone what they should be getting behind, telling everyone how it is, and then wanting everyone else to then go and tell their MPs that. So effectively, even Jeremy Corbyn effectively is like, I don't need to go into Parliament, I don't need to have a voice in there or a vote, or it doesn't even need to go in answered, because I don't need to do that anymore, because in a way, social media is bigger than Parliament. Other than the actual votes that get the acts made into the law, it's pointless, because they're getting the message out there and they're influencing other people without even to channel it through Parliament. And then I think that's why they don't even really respect the privileges anymore, or for us, because it's like, except for that votes and proceedings part of it, right in the core centre. And that basically means that they're turning it into some kind of game show host sort of thing where we're all contestants and they're sort of like the game show presenter, and they're the ones asking the questions, and we're the ones, having to, press the buzzer and come up with the answer, whether we're right or not, rather than, us coming with the questions, or, what are you going to do about this, and then them coming up with the solutions and answers, right? And it definitely is going the wrong way. It's the fact that they're not even really bothered about upholding their own rights anymore. It is severely affecting us and ours. So, the voice in Parliament has really been devalued, and now we can't even really afford to get the newspapers, but that's what makes something official. If it gets printed in the press or in the newspapers, the price is out of it and taxed is out of the newspaper, and getting being able to put important notices in there, it's too expensive, no one can afford it. And yet, Jonathan M. Fuller is, he's got every single newspaper you can get spread on the table, and he's telling everyone what he's saying, right? When he should actually have articles in there himself, or adverts in there himself, right? For Extinction Rebellion or what other causes. So I think that the way that it is now is that they're just treating us like crowds, and they're treating themselves like political commentators rather than actual MPs who are elected to represent people and do something. So the Triennial Act, I think, the point, what's the point? That we elect them so they do have a voice in Parliament, and they can go in there and vote on things. Whereas now, they just don't seem to, it's probably more, it's equally, I think MPs, their social media has become more important, I think, than their voice in Parliament. I think that the MPs, being filmed, photographed, going on promos, even, like you've got the petitions committee, right? Up in Scotland, the chairman's going around in his constituency, popping up at radio stations, for photo opportunities. That really is not it's not a voice. It's not getting elected to have a voice in Parliament. What he's actually doing is he's going for photo shoots. He's promoting himself to get elected next time, and he's trying to make out, hey, look, I'm actually doing something. I'm an MP. I'm at this radio station. Honestly, I'm doing something. I'm having a bit of a surgery here, but only this particular one because it gets me a lot of promo. Picking the jobs that get the most promotional out of it and make them look better, like they're doing something right. The whole country, all of England shouldn't be. Jamie Stone shouldn't be a mobile broadcasting unit for what he's up to on a daily basis. He shouldn't be putting out adverts and public statements and, speaking about where he's going for his surgeries, and because it's a continuous self-promotion. He goes to the surgery, he won't. How is it right that if you ring up, an MP's constituency and said, what has, can you tell me who's been to the surgery today and what they've been up to? They won't tell you. If I ring up MP surgery and say, do you mind giving me a list of all the people that rang in today and what they've been up to, what did they come in to see you about? That's confidential information. So, that's the twister. That's like the nipple twister. That's like the pulsing nerve on the brain. How is it that Jamie Stone can suddenly go, surprise, and go, hey, look, pop up. Like a pop-up book. Hey, look, everybody, I'm having a surgery here in, Sutherland or whatever. I'm at a radio station, surprise. And then, so like, well, if you're telling us what you're up to, I'll just ring up your secretary at the constituency office. Oh, hi, where's Jamie today? It's about 3 o'clock here. Whereabouts is he? Can you tell me where he is so I can go, bump into him, go meet him? Do you know who he's seen at 3 o'clock, please, and what it's about? Oh, yes, I'll tell you where he's going. He's going to the radio station on the coast. Going to have an ice cream. And they're going to talk about, what the policies should be about, radio broadcasting. Oh, tell me more. This is it. But, roll your eyeballs in your sockets, right? That is what they're doing. It is. And they don't actually get the point. They don't. It's like walking into a brick wall. It's like walking down the road and walking straight into a fucking brick wall or a lamppost and knocking yourself out and not even knowing that you're doing it. It's like you don't even know what you're doing. It really is. It's kind of like being living in some dream when you don't actually really. What the fuck are you doing? Oh, I'm doing my constituency work and I'm telling everyone what it is, right? But when I choose to, when I want to, but if you ring up and ask me, I can't tell you, my secretary can't tell you, it's private, right? But you're fucking telling us. That's what you're doing. You're telling us what you're doing in your surgery work and showing us. If I ring your fucking secretary up at the constituency office, she won't tell me and she'll say there's a strict policy. Oh, it's just a bit of fun though. We're having a laugh doing a photo shoot. Oh, is it all a bit of fun now? Is that what it actually is being an MP now? It's all about having a Facebook and a YouTube and an Insta. And because you got elected and everyone knows who you are, then they're all watching you. It's like getting a free followers, right? So everyone's listening to them now, right? Not like, well, they get a voice in Parliament as well. Well, we don't need the voice in Parliament because now everyone's interested, everyone's listening to what Nigel Farage is saying, right? In fact, Nigel Farage is going to tell everyone in the country what they should be doing, what they should be voting on, and who they should be voting for, and what they should be telling their MPs And then they'll know when all those MPs go into Parliament and have a voice, everyone will be saying exactly what Nigel Farage told them. Because they didn't need the voice in. How did they get the voice into Parliament? Because Nigel Farage had his voice everywhere, but not like Strode with his constituents in his own area, right? No, he went to the fucking speaker and told the whole nation, right? Well, he's speaking about Maz in Parliament. Well, yes, supposedly, in your own area, in constituency to your own people, right? They do. It's not enough for them to have a voice in Parliament now. And in fact, they're meant to be in. They're not actually meant to be a voice. They're meant to be a receptacle. The MP is meant to be the receiver of the local people. And that's the conversation that is meant to be protected, so he can then go into Parliament and then have a voice with the Assembly, and it can come out through the documents and official papers of Parliament. But that's not good enough. They want to. It's like leaked. It's come to the point where it's like, it's beyond Parliament now. But they don't want to carry the rights and privileges you get with that, because the social media is just a bit of jokey fun, even though it's serious constituency work, but apparently not according to Jamie Stone. Oh, but we don't have any serious rights or privileges with that, because, that would be too serious. It would be like, everyone's coming to me with serious issues that we've got settled in Parliament, and that's a very serious matter, and I've got to go in there and have a voice in there, right? But, forget all that, because, that's, yesterday's news, and now we're just having a good, jolly old, jovial little, Reform UK fucking platform or something to the nation, and it's just I'll speak, you listen, right? All right, it's like, it's almost like the MPs coming to you with their problems. It's like, let Corbyn Corbyn will meet you, in the town centre, down in the fucking park or at Covent Garden at 3:00, and he'll tell you his grievances. Jeremy Corbyn will meet you in Covent Garden and he'll tell you the bloody grievances, chew your ear off, and then you can go, tell your MPs about it, right? All right, no, we're not going to Corbyn with our grievances. He's coming to us with his, right? We're the ones who are going to go and, tell our MPs and go to the polling station and vote on it and or get the MPs to speak about it, right? It's all flipped, and this is the thing, and it's all gone wrong, and it's mainly down to this Daniel Greenberg stupid policy on social media, turning a blind eye on it when it's full of election law breaches. It's full of electoral material, is the MP social media now. They're even breaking the law and having, police adverts in their material. It's getting ridiculous. So, that Triennial Act, I think it's a good find, really. I'm glad I found it. It's actually one of the really important ones to go in with the other legislation. So I've kind of added it in now. But anyway, that's pretty much it.